Bro, where on earth is Tyler? Been waiting to go on this patrol with him. All I said was just literally conceal your helmet. Like, you just need to put a couple twigs in there. And he's taking so, what? What the is that? What is that? Tyler, is that you?
Oh shit. Yeah. There you are. Dude, what's up? How's it going?
Bro, what the hell is on your, why do you have a gas mask, bro? We're literally just hiking.
I don't know, man. I just like to be prepared because, like, you know, I thought I would need a pair of goggles and another pair of goggles and then probably the gas mask just in case we have like some CBRN threat or something like that. And then I got my nods up here and then I got some scrim and I got some foliage up in here. You know, I just didn't think that was enough. So, and then I got my helmet and I needed to make sure that I put some tape on my helmet and all my patches, absolutely everything. Just because I wanted to be, I just want to be sure, just in case something happens.
Okay, yeah. Well, it looks pretty damn heavy.
Oh, no, dude. I got it. See? I've been working on my neck. Look at that.
Okay. Well, why don't you just jump for me real quick?
Yeah, I'll do a jump for you.
Yep. Broke his neck. All right, guys, good morning, good evening, and good night. Welcome to Foghorn 5. Guys, are you in the market to protect your noggin? I remember one of the first times that I got back into Airsoft. I went to go play and I had a beanie on, and we played this close quarter map, and I got hit right in my forehead, and bro, I literally got like flashbang. I don't even remember where I was at in that moment. It hurt so bad. So we kind of want to go over a beginner guide to setting up helmets. Kind of some ways to think about it, where you're going to be taking it, how you're going to play with it, all those kinds of things.
Once again, we want to thank everybody for their support. We really appreciate everybody commenting, subscribing, liking, just simply watching our videos. Also, we put together a highlight reel of all of our intros as a little treat when we hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out right now. It's we'll link it up here.
Yeah, thanks for 1,000 subs. That was awesome. Once again, on this channel, we want to go ahead and thank the vets. There's probably going to be some people who may be in the real helmet market watching this video because it kind of goes hand in hand because we're just talking about what kind of things to put on it. We here on this channel like to approach Airsoft as a training medium.
Train with a real firearm, use some real kit. You could use real kit airsofting and get used to it.
Multi-medium training is going to be the best thing. All right, guys, so enough yapping. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about helmets.
So the first question you're going to want to ask yourself, where are you taking this helmet? Are you taking it in an outdoor scenario or are you taking it in an indoor scenario? You know, that kind of dictates like what style of helmet you're going to want to use. Next question you'll want to ask yourself is how long you're going to be wearing it. Is it going to be short term? Is it going to be long term? Is there certain things you need to put back on when you take it off? Next question you'll want to ask yourself is what's your play style? Are you playing a milsim where you're kind of defending and sitting around for a while, or are you assaulting? Going into buildings? Are you clearing buildings? Are you getting up in there and are you fighting it out?
There's variables and you got to see what's going to fit you a little bit better, what's going to protect you better, and what kind of applications and things that you need to add onto your helmet. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is protection. And so what we're going to do is we're going to reference protection to where are you taking the helmet. So where are you taking it is going to relate to what protection level you need for that helmet. We have 4 helmets today. We're going to lay them out on the table and kind of show you different protection levels within these helmets. Start with right here is a bump helmet.
And then the next one we got, Ops Core Fast helmet.
This is the M-Tech.
And here we got the Mitch 2000.
So what is a bump helmet? So this right here is probably the most generic airsoft helmet you're gonna find. Probably find this at any airsoft store. What you could tell a bump helmet from is usually they're gonna have these holes right here because they're nice and breathable. A bump helmet is just a helmet to protect your head. It has no ballistic capability. Obviously this is airsoft, so none of these helmets have ballistic capability, but in reality, that's the difference. And still, even in airsoft, they're not going to be as high quality. They have these holes right here, so you get that plus of it being nice and breathable, but it's not going to offer the best protection even in airsoft when it comes to bumping your head. If you really want a really nice quality bump, I'd say, you know, go for a Team Wendy or one of the Ops Core bumps. But yeah, essentially a bump helmet is just going to serve the purpose of protecting your head and nothing more from, you know, bumps. That's why it's called a bump. Probably a good application would be maybe for just pure hiking, or maybe if you're going to be in some sort of vehicle for a long time.
They make bumps in carbon fiber as well. Big plus about a bump is that it's extremely light. Diving into the next helmet, this is an Ops Core Fast Maritime. This is a thick and heavy replica from Evolution Gear. What this is gonna offer is a little bit more protection.
Nape strap.
And it's adjustable and it basically clamps onto your head. And then we also have the arc rails for mounting accessories and then a night vision mount as well. If you were to get a real counterpart, these are typically ballistic. They do make them in a bump form as well. Yeah, these are gonna protect your head up to a certain caliber.
With a helmet like this, it is still a plus to have an Airsoft. The quality that this thing is made, if it comes to a legit life-threatening fall, I would not trust this helmet right here. I would still take this one because this is gonna be a higher quality bump. We have the M-Tech. So everything we just talked about with the Ops Core is basically gonna translate over with the M-Tech. The thing that the M-Tech has going for it is it's a very slim cut. So if we go ahead and take the Ops Core and the M-Tech right next to each other, we could see that the Ops Core is a lot more bulbous, where the M-Tech is very flat.
The M-Tech kind of conforms to your head a little bit more.
The M-Tech's a cool option because it offers you all those same protection levels, but you're gonna, keep a more slim profile. The M-Tech, actually, in my opinion, comes with a lot of great padding. So a big thing talking about all these helmets is padding. You could get headaches from it being bad, and depending on what kind of quality of helmet you're going into buying, you're either gonna get low quality or high quality padding. Like this helmet right here, it's literally just styrofoam. This is probably some of the worst padding. This helmet actually does give me headaches and it's really obnoxious. This helmet right here, the padding is great. It's like this memory foam material. I have this thing set up so I could wear it for like literally hours on end. I'll never feel it,
Padding on this particular helmet is not the greatest. Maybe swapping this out for a real Ops Core padding system would be really beneficial because comfort is really key. This helmet gives me a headache probably every time I use it. Padding is really important because if you're wearing it for a long time, you're gonna be bumming.
If you just need to wear the helmet for a couple, maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes at a time, you don't need to spend the time and money to invest into getting a really nice padding system because it's just going to be on and off,
Yeah. Last but not least, we have the Mitch 2000. This is an Airsoft replica of it. Now, what this helmet has going for it is it has ear coverage. Protect your ears. You could wear comms underneath as long as you take out a couple pads. You do get some ear protection.
To have the option to not have to wear comms all the time and let your ears breathe and kind of be free is a very big plus. This is one of the deepest cuts out of all these helmets, so you're going to be covered a lot more around your head, So if you are someone who's worried about getting shot in the head, all that kind of stuff, you're going to get a lot of protection out of this.
You could also mount arc rails on a Mitch as well. Most of these helmets have that ability.
So even though we have these 4 helmets lined up right here, there's actually 2 more helmets that I kind of want to mention because they're helmets that we don't have, but they are something to mention. So the first helmet I want to mention is the helmet with the most coverage out of any of these is going to be a PSGT cut helmet. You can't wear comms, but your ears are fully covered. So it's the next step up from the Mitch. If you know for sure that you're not going to be fully wearing comms and you want that ear protection, maybe your field requires it, this could be a very good helmet option for you. It's going to offer the most coverage and you're not going to get shot in the ears or anything like that. And the last helmet that we don't have that I want to mention, the arc cut. So right here, this is a fast cut. And the way that you could tell the difference between a fast and an arc is the fast is just going to be a straight L shape like this when it comes to the actual rail. An arc cut helmet is going to be a deeper cut for your ears, so it's going to be more comfortable for wearing comms. It's called an arc because it does actually come up an arc like this. So sometimes when you're wearing certain comms with these kinds of helmets, it's going to push it down, makes your ear rest on the comm kind of funky. So
when you're running around, you might hear your comms bumping against your helmet, and that could be kind of annoying when you are playing a game and you're trying to actually hear what's going on.
Me and Tyler are going to set up 2 helmets. I'm basically going to set up a bump helmet for outdoor use, for long term, something nice and comfy, and just kind of to facilitate being on my head for a long time. And Tyler is going to set up more of a kind of assault raid helmet with this Ops Core. Within doing this, you're going to kind of get a perspective of how setting up these helmets for these 2 applications looks and what kind of differences you're going to see and what kind of equipment you want in it. And if you're somewhere in between, or maybe you're one of these 2, you'll kind of get a very good idea of what your helmet setup might look like at the end of all this. Still, we're along the question of protection. Where are you taking this helmet, right? Indoor, outdoor, what level of protection you're gonna need. His indoor situation is gonna require this helmet, and my outdoor situation is gonna require this helmet. The next thing we wanna think about, face protection, eye protection when it comes to airsoft. We're gonna have things like full face masks. This is gonna be something like your dye mask. This is a big consideration because if you are one of those dudes that, you for sure wanna wear a dye mask, whatever your helmet cut is very much going to dictate that. You're not going to be able to wear a Mitch or one of the PA-SGT helmets, so you're going to probably be stuck with as high of a cut as a helmet as you could get your hands on. Next thing is just the mouth guard. So there's a lot of those mesh or plastic mouth guard systems out there. A lot of these helmets actually have a little system right here, a little clip where you could buy like Airsoft mesh mouthpieces that clip right there onto the helmet. So that's a very cool feature because have this system that's all stuck to your helmet. You don't have to worry about putting multiple things on. It's already on there, kind of good to go. So the next protection level is going to be like eye pro. So we're going to talk about goggles. This is probably the biggest level of eye pro. So we got 2 sets of goggles right here. So goggles are great, but there's some negatives. You know, they're going to fog up and stuff, but you know, goggles are going to offer a lot more protection out of the other eye pro systems out there. Along with those little clips that we talked about before for the masks, there's going to be goggles out there that have those same clips. I really like these for my hiking helmet setup. Last time we went hiking, we kind of did a little fire pit, and when I was starting the fire, so much smoke was getting in my eyes, and I was really happy that I just happened to have these sitting on my head because I just put them down and then all the smoke was, you know, no longer in my eyes.
They're really just for wind. They're not for actual impacts.
Yeah, get a nice pair of, you know, impact rated goggles like these. Don't use something like this. This is for just that emergency where maybe there's some dust kicking up. This is what you're gonna actually want to protect your eyes for sure. Last thing when it comes to eye pro is gonna be the most obvious one, is just gonna be glasses, right? So you're gonna get the least protection with this, but you know, you also kind of want to think about what helmet systems you're gonna want to use with glasses, because there's some systems that dig the arms of the glasses like into your skull, especially when you're running comms. If you're wearing glasses and using a Mitch and comms, it's gonna be crushing, you know, these arms into your head, and you're gonna feel that all day. Very last thing, getting into face protection, is going to be a gas mask. There's gonna be applications sometimes where you might need to wear a gas mask with your helmet. If that's a possibility, you need to consider, 1, what gas mask to get, and 2, what helmet to get. These gas masks right here are actually designed to fit right alongside with the OpsCore helmets. So they're perfectly cut out to fit like that. And it's a great system for that situation where you might need to wear a gas mask. If a gas mask is a possibility for you, you need to think about what kind of helmet cut, because they're not all gonna fit with this gas mask on.
Pray to God that you'll never have to wear one.
Yeah, for sure.
They suck.
So next up on protection is gonna be ear pro. If you're just doing general shooting, maybe at the range or whatever, you might not need something so fancy like this. You could probably just get away with earplugs or even just earmuffs. Yeah, but with a system like this is great because this is actually going to be providing comms, which we'll talk about later.
An active hearing protection.
So if a loud sound actually goes off, it's going to protect your ears and your hearing and not be exposed to that full intensity of that sound.
There's all types of arms out there, all types of mounting systems that you could use, depending on what kind of style or kit you're going for or whatever, you know, or comfortability.
For a system like this where I'm actually out hiking, I will always take the headband. It's going to be long-term use, so I have that time to, you know, mess with my helmet and my headset and take it on and off. Something like this over here, definitely going to be for that assault kind of kit. You want to think about, you know, rapid deployment. How fast are you going to be able to pop your helmet on and have everything you need? With this, it's going to be, your ear pro is going to be on the second that you put your helmet on. If you're not going to be actually using some active ear protection like this or a headset, once again, cut of the helmet. You might want to think about those deeper helmet cuts. What they also have for rail systems like this is they do have plastic shrouds that will fully cover your ears. So that's another system that you could look into.
In Airsoft, there is banger grenades and whatnot.
Yep.
Do you want to protect your ears from loud banger grenades? Are you indoors when those are going off? Will you suck it up whether or not one goes off by you, or would you rather protect your ears and save your hearing?
Another level of protection we're going to need is concealment, and it's going to be very dependent on where you're taking it. A helmet like this, it's an assault helmet. You know, he's going to be going in there and everyone's going to know he's in there as soon as he's there. So you don't need much to conceal your helmet. But when it comes to something like this, when you're out in the field, you got to worry about protecting your shape and your overall figure and masking yourself. So there's a lot of options out there. The very first one is going to be obviously spray painting it. So you can see that I kind of have this digital AR1 pattern going on right here. I have this paracord just set up right here at all times. And once again, that's a level of concealment. So I could take things like shrubs and bush and stuff and I could stick it under here. Obviously this is a really bad job and bad example, but I have the system and the option right here to put stuff in my helmet if I need to. Another level of concealment you want to consider maybe is getting a helmet cover. When you're in an area that's so differently colored than the one you were in last, that a helmet cover can be a very good option. You know, say that you're somewhere where it snows, and if you're out there for a long time, you know, it might look green, but then when the snow hits, it's all gonna look white, so you might need a white helmet cover. The very last thing to talk about is a helmet net. So these nettings are great because you could just throw them on over your helmet like this, put it on over your helmet, and now your head looks like a bush. If you don't have some sort of built-in system to put things in, like actual shrubbery, a net or something like this will be great because it is a net and you could just stuff more stuff in there. So concealment, very good thing to think about, and it really applies more for that long-term use. The most I'd probably say when it comes to something like this is maybe matching your team. So I'd say maybe your entire team is running M81 and you guys need to know that everyone on my team is M81, so that's the application where you might need a helmet cover. Also, helmet covers do offer things like built-in Velcro if your helmet doesn't have it, even like pouches in the back and stuff too, and wire management systems. So as opposed to maybe needing to buy a pouch and Velcro and wire management, buy one helmet cover and it's going to come with all that stuff.
Next set of things that you'll want to consider is navigation. How long you wear the helmet is going to dictate what kind of nav gear you're going to be putting on your helmet. For example, we have headlights and flashlights. Some are like IR, some are red light, white light.
Obviously, you know, you're going to need a headlight for a nighttime situation, so it does kind of depend and vary on how long you're going to be using it. But something like this right here, this is a white light that also does red. This is like my primary hiking headband that I use, and I just, you know, put it right here anywhere on whatever helmet I'm using, and it's perfect for my needs.
For the Surefire lights, there is helmet mounting adapters and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you could actually pivot them, which is really nice.
Yeah, very cool.
If you're getting some sort of light with a red light capability and a white light capability, make sure the first thing it cycles to is red.
If you're going to be at a milsim where the majority of the people there are using night vision, you for sure need something that will turn on red first, because even then you're going to be spotted like a beacon in the night.
Next up is NVGs, night vision. One thing to note is shrouds as well. This is something to consider, your shroud.
If you are doing a lot of milsims or plan to, you have the option to rent nods there. So they're not going to allow you to use those nods if you have some crappy system like this. Like you could tell this is just really cheap plastic on this thing. Since it's more of my hiking helmet and I don't need that kind of stuff, I don't have it set up for that. But for this over here, Tyler has a really nice helmet. He knows that he could take this thing to any event where they might allow him to rent nods and he'll be good to go. Same thing with your mount, right? Don't get some cheapy Amazon mount if you know for a fact that you are going to be using real nods. This right here, this mount can actually withstand the weight and the tension that nods are going to apply onto this thing.
Invest in a real shroud and a real mount as well.
Pretty expensive to invest in a shroud and mount system. There is actually a really cheap option to go with, and it's something like this. You could either bolt this on directly to your helmet, but what I would suggest is get a ratchet strap mount. What you could do is you could take this mount and there's these holes right here. You would just kind of let it clip on through right there through the helmet. Take your ratchet strap, connect it to the back, and then ratchet it down on your helmet, and it is a secured system that actually will hold night vision goggles for a lot cheaper, but then you are still going to be faced with what actual mount system you're going to need to put on there. So invest in a nice mount.
There's also mount shroud combos that are the mount and shroud built in together. That's another thing to consider. Do you want to be able to take your mount off of your shroud, or do you want to have your mount always on your shroud? Whether or not it's going to be a breakaway mount or a non-breakaway mount, it's probably a good idea to get a mount that is breakaway. So if it does get knocked off your head, the night vision gets the chance to fall off as opposed to get smashed against a rock or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So with night vision, there's more to consider too, especially when we're talking about short-term and long-term use. When it comes to long-term use and you want to rely on that night vision goggle for actually hiking around at night, what you're gonna pretty much always want is a battery pack for it. If you're doing something like a raid, you might not need it because it's not gonna be on for that long. You could just rely on the actual integrated battery system on the PVS models just to power it up. But along with that is gonna be things like wire management for those batteries. That's another reason why I kind of have these right here. If I ever do need to put night vision on this, I could really just run it through here. Kind of makes it simple. Another thing I really like to use for wire management are these little Velcro strips. You can kind of just get them anywhere or make your own. You know, you just stick them right there on the helmet, feed your wire right there, keep everything nice and tight on your helmet. If you are going to be doing a system where you just are using the night vision by itself without an actual battery, what you're going to want to consider is counterweights. It might sound kind of silly, but if you have night vision on your head, you want to add more weight on the back because it's going to be so front heavy, it's going to strain your head because you're going to be using more of one muscle to counterbalance that night vision goggle weight. They do actually make metal weights that you can put in certain pouches that have insert slots. You put enough weight to kind of balance out whatever night vision system you have, so it's actually sitting on your head nice and comfy and not straining your neck.
A lot of weight packs and weight systems will have slots for batteries, so that could also kind of act as your counterweight as well.
Yep.
Another thing to consider is like access to your batteries, access to all types of things that you need on your helmet.
The very last thing with nods is you want to think about some sort of retention system. An ops core helmet like this is really cool because it's going to come in with a very nice built-in bungee retention system. So when your nods are actually on your head, you're going to want to hook these on there and make sure that they're on there tight. They don't wobble around. And also, if it happens to fall, they're kind of saved because these things will clip onto it. You don't want to buy $12,000 night vision goggles or whatever the hell you're going to spend on it and then let it drop on the floor, right?
Yeah. Lanyard retention systems, some of them mount onto the shroud itself, some of them are built into the shroud. The next thing you'll want to consider into your helmet setup is signaling, such as strobes, team color lights, chem lights, team patches, team bands. One thing about strobes is they have white light, red light, green light, blah, 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 IR capabilities. So then people with night vision can see you.
When it comes to both these helmets, I would always suggest patches. Have some sort of way to identify to your friends that you know who you are, but you're gonna have a little bit more leniency with patch variation with this kind of helmet as opposed to this. The helmet like this, you know, run our full color patches such as our foghorn one that's nice in blue and red because all of our friends are gonna be close. It's gonna be an intense situation where there could be that split second where somebody accidentally shoots you. I would suggest to wear your nice and bright patches to allow your team to properly see you and instantly know without a shadow of a doubt that that is you. And in those stressful scenarios, you're not gonna get out and get shot because you have your nice bright patches on you.
The element of surprise is gone.
Yeah, essentially. But with something like this, you're not gonna have that kind of room for allowing yourself to have those nice bright patches. So we need subdued patches because this kind of system, we're gonna be out hiking around in the field, concealment, that kind of stuff is gonna be a concern. We might not even need patches for this kind of system because concealment at that time might be so much of a priority that identifying yourself in any way, you know, may be bad. Same thing when it comes to all these light systems. What I would do is for a system like this where you're out in the field, a strobe. This is more of an emergency kind of thing where you need to strobe out a beacon and be like, hey, I'm really in a bad spot. So I would put a strobe on a system more like this. For a helmet like this, you once again want a better way to quickly identify yourself with what team you're on, where it's just a LED light that always stays on and it's colorized to whatever color system you might want to match with your friends. You put this on your helmet, it's always on, and you're gonna, once again, easily know who's who, and you leave it on. Something like a chem light, I think is a really good option to achieve that same goal, but in this scenario. So say maybe I'm out doing a milsim, and the majority of the time I'm hiding, but we get that one moment where, okay, we need to do a raid, right? If I have a chem light, I could crack this thing, and then maybe through Velcro or up here, wherever it may be, stick that on there, and now I have a really easy way to instantly identify. So
things like these, you don't want to dispose of them.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, like if you're out doing a recce patrol or something like that, you don't want to be disposing of things and leaving them on the ground. A chem light, because you can't turn it off, you got to wait till it dissipates. You just stick it in a pocket,
Yep.
Put it back in your backpack, get rid of it, so you're not further exposing yourself.
And also along with that point too, you could be asking yourself, why not just get one of these and just put it on there? And for that scenario where I might need like a chem light, I already have this. Once again, this is a bump helmet. You're gonna be out in the field and there's chances where you're gonna be walking through bushes and a bunch of shit's gonna hit your head. If this accidentally gets turned on, you know, that's an opportunity to give yourself away. So I would veer away from this and keep it on something more like this and use something like this because you're not gonna have an accident. You're gonna consciously be cracking this thing, putting it on, because who knows, maybe you walk through a tree and this thing turned on hours ago and you didn't even know, and now people know where you are, right? Yeah. So the application for something just as simple as this is very useful. Same thing with this. If you were to ever be doing something where you had air support, I would suggest this for either system, but in our scenario, in Airsoft, civilian scenario, that's not really gonna happen. So I would keep this as an emergency thing. Even for that opportunity where maybe you're out hiking and you actually get into some sort of emergency, you could call 911 and tell them, hey, I literally have a beacon on my head blasting out a light signal, right? One other thing for signaling too is gonna be these bands right here. These are called cat eye bands. Basically, you could write things on here. I just wrote like a fun little quote, but you could also actually put some sort of identification on you. And then right here, these are gonna be little glow in the dark. That's why they're called cat eyes, because they look like cat eyes in the dark. This is a very good option because unlike some of the other options that are emitting a full light, this is going to be very minimalistic for a scenario where maybe I'm out in the field and I just need that tiny amount of ID so people know who I am. I could wear cat eyes on this and then I just have just the right amount of identification where I'm not actually blasting an entire light source from my helmet in any sort of way. And also it's helpful for storing things as well. A lot of times I actually take my headlamp and just mount it on this as opposed to using the actual strap that the headlamp comes with, because I just find it easier for me in that way. So
the last segment that we'll go into relates to what your play style is, like whether or not you're assaulting or defending. What kind of tools are you going to be using, and what kind of play style is dictating that? First thing we got is a camera, GoPros.
Are you going to be filming your war crimes? Do you guys want to be posting your war crimes onto the Taliban subreddit so they could all cheer you on and watch you guys tear down democracy? So all jokes aside, it is a consideration. Are you someone who's going to be playing Airsoft and want to get a lot of footage of it? Basically, everything we talked about night vision wise is going to apply to your camera, because they're mostly going to sit on, you know, night vision mounts, and you're going to want that retention system to make sure you don't drop your camera. They do have...
Dropped it.
I dropped it. They do have cameras that mount onto like Velcro and stuff, other, you know, angles. So there are more options out there, but...
Are you going to be live streaming that signal to teams? Or are you going to be live streaming in general, like on YouTube or Twitch or something like that?
Yep.
I don't know what kind of cameras have that capability, but I'm sure there is stuff out there. I know the Mohawk, you could basically send that signal to like a team.
Once again, are you going to be using a built-in battery system on the camera? You might need to run a battery pack, so you might need wire management. You might need to be live streaming it, so however you need to wire that up to run to whatever your device to live stream it is. So literally everything we talked about night vision wise is pretty one-to-one to camera setup, because it's going to be all pretty much the same stuff.
Next thing is, what kind of arc rails are you going to have on your helmet? Picatinny arc rails. Are you going to have M-LOK like the M-Tech? These are different systems. M-LOK is starting to get a little bit more support.
I'm not gonna lie, I use this helmet all the time. M-LOK sucks, dude. I can't find anything for it. M-LOK sucks for helmets. I would kind of veer away from it until it gets a little bit more support, because I can't find like anything to mount stuff on this too.
Yeah.
Even these right here, they're like kind of ghetto rigged on there. I just put a bolt through to allow the comms to actually mount on there. Just going along with that too, just overall asking the questions, do you even need arc rails? Like this helmet right here, I took them off because once again, it's a hiking application. I like to not allow things to get snagged on me when I'm walking around. The arc rails have the opportunity for you to get caught up on bushes and stuff, especially with these bungees and the retention system.
Yeah, bushes could get stuffed up in there, and then you're walking around looking like an unnatural bush.
I kind of just did away with it. I'd rather not. Same thing with the Mitch. There's no arc rails on there. So depending on your application, you might not even need arc rails at all.
We already talked about this before, but comms, they overlap with Ear Pro in the section further back. Whether or not you're going to have strictly Ear Pro or Ear Pro with comms is the question as well.
This time that we're mentioning it, we're particularly talking about just the communication aspect of it, because that is the tool, that is what we're talking about, and that varies, you know, your play style. Are you going to be playing with a team? Maybe if you're close enough, you don't even need comms, right? Maybe you're so close to each other, you don't even need it, but maybe there's a situation where you know you're going to be far away and you need comms.
Maybe you don't want them because you don't want to be broadcasting your radio signal, because radio signals are easy to track and locate and whatnot.
You actually need a communication system, or do you need protection? Because you could be using comms strictly for protection to protect your ears and your hearing.
Fasteners, stuff like tape, zip ties, other sorts of like cable management things, or things that you just need quickly.
Yep.
Stick some tape on your helmet, like for all types of purposes. If you need a strip of tape for something, you could just stick it on your helmet.
I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen pictures where people run tape on their helmet like that. For the people who don't know, they're kind of questioning why are they doing that. In reality, the situation for a helmet like this, they're going to be breaching. So they need ways to tape explosives onto doors. So you have this on your head, you rip it off, and now you have your tape. But there's multiple applications for, you know, having tape handy on your head. So it's a tool that you might need. Going with that are going to be things like zip ties. I mean, to mount zip ties, what I would do is take a strip of tape like this, stick a bunch of zip ties in there, 2 or 3, have it stuck to a piece of tape like this, and then just wherever you might want it on your helmet. And now you have just access to zip ties on your helmet. You pull it off, and whatever you might need a zip tie, it's right there sitting on your helmet. Maybe if you have a pouch in the back of your helmet, you might even need some glue for something, you know? So you could store some glue in there. Just think about whatever kind of fasteners you might need for your applications.
By the way, he didn't litter, he just threw that in his backpack. Map lights, these stick onto your helmet, onto the arc rail. These have a little gooseneck, and they usually have red or white light. This is another thing to consider, whether or not you're out in the dark and you're trying to read maps. Looking at topography after red light hits a map is really hard. So you got to practice, get in a dark room, turn on a red light, and look at topography.
Yeah. The reason we're mentioning another flashlight in this scenario is this is not a navigation flashlight. This is way too dim to actually navigate the ground in front of you, but this is a tool light. So this is why it's in the tool section, because there is a difference. When you see lights like these, you need to figure out what kind of lumens these types of lights are producing, because this isn't something you're going to walk around with, and you don't want a giant navigation light on your head when you're just trying to look at a map, because you're going to blow up with light whatever is directly in front of you, and there could be a situation where you need to avoid that for concealment purposes. Having something like this where it's just the right amount to see what's in front of you is something you need to consider.
Last thing is back pouches. Whether or not they have like a mohawk strip of Velcro with other sorts of pouches on them or whatnot, these could be useful for multiple things. They usually have Velcro for your strobe or patches, batteries, retention systems. A lot of times they'll have a little slot for weights. It's kind of like a multi-use tool item. You could use it for many things.
Having more pouches on you and using the equipment that's on your head, it's a good option. You could keep a lot of stuff in here and really set up your helmet to be very versatile with something like this. Like wire management and stuff, there's a lot of ways I could feed and route things through here. Something like this is a great option for just a really quick and easy way to kind of manage stuff too.
All right, yeah, so we'll go ahead and start building our Raid, Assaulter, Breacher helmet setup. First thing we'll start off with is our Ear Pro comms. The nice thing is there's some adjustment. Yeah, whether or not you manage your wires in the back of the helmet for your comms or the inside of your helmet is up to you. Just make sure it's away from your head and not digging into your head, because that could be really uncomfortable. I got these popped on. Looking cool as shit. These are dual comms, so I have 2 leads. I just loop this together, do a little cable wrap on there. I'm running the wire in the back. That's what I found to be most comfortable. Get a little bit of tape and try to finagle it in there. I don't know if gaff tape is the vibe, but it works. But yeah, I just kind of quickly and shittily tape that in there so it gets out of my way. This is just where I like to run it. I don't know. You guys in the comments fight about where you put your cable between your comms in your helmet. It's up to you guys, wherever you want to put them. Next thing we'll grab is this little mohawk. We have DIY like digital nods, and like this is a way you can kind of manage your cables. This digital pair of nods that we have, it has to be used with a battery pack. It has to be powered. We'll just pretend we have them right now and run the cable through. Pretend the pack is in there. We can use things like a wee bit of tape. Should have got some of the green like 100-mile-per-hour tape. Kind of manage that, and then take a zip tie. I don't know what this is for, but I'm assuming it's for cable management. I've always thought that's what it was. That's what I use it for. And just make sure the cut end of your zip tie is not gonna dig into you. Dig into me. I actually gave it a little bit too much wire than I needed, so I'll just kind of fix that up. The shittier it looks, the cooler it'll look.
That's true.
And then we could use like a little Velcro strip as well, just for the meantime. Just so I don't cut my fingers when I'm grabbing my helmet or something like that. I'll just tape this out of the way. Tape it so it protects my fingers from getting cut up. It's a shitty way to do it, but yeah. If you have power or a cable attached to your nods, you'll definitely want a little bit of slack in your cable so that when you put your nods up and down, it's not gonna tug on it too hard. And this just clips into the helmet. Okay, it's on there. Got a night vision mount here. Some sort of strobe. This isn't a strobe, but an ID light. Throw that on there. Take this little retention system and tighten it down, and then kind of just loop it. I'll tape it off. Yeah, just kind of taping things off. Pair of goggles. If we're getting in and out of helicopters on our airsoft raids, because we're that cool, this will probably interfere with the night vision mount, so definitely want to keep that into consideration. Got some patches. Got our American flag patch, flying the proper way because this is a reversed one. Coalition Afghanistan flag patch. Yeah, we could actually throw the foghorn patch on the back to kind of add some weight, counterweight, because we don't have any actual counterweights. There we go. And we'll take some tape for breaching purposes. Fold one end so you can actually grab it with gloves on easily. And you just rip that off as you need it. But yeah, we got a pretty decent helmet setup. Not exactly how I'd want to build it out, but I need to actually finish my helmet setup. Having your comms on your helmet makes it really quick and easy to take it on and off. Takes a matter of seconds, and gangsta.
All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and start doing my helmet. This is going to be my hiking, concealment, kind of field work helmet, you know. So first thing I went ahead and did is, you know, spray painted the helmet. I already kind of have all these systems on here, Velcroed it all up, took off my rails. So that's stuff you guys already have seen and know that I did. So first thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is kind of set up my little book light. I for sure need a book light because there's gonna be times where I need to look at maps or whatever, and I need a small little light. So that's good enough for me. And now I have a little setup where I could look at my maps or whatever I might need. So I want to do my cat eyes. I'm going to run it so the cat eyes are on the back. If I'm hiking with friends or whatever, we're mainly going to be in a line. So, you know, people are going to need to identify me from the back as opposed to the front. Thing on.
Hey, yo, pause.
Pause. If your homies can only ID you from the front, you guys really aren't homies.
For real.
Alrighty, so we got that going. This thing likes to kind of come undone sometimes. What I like to do is take these little Velcro tabs, put them right here just so they won't fall off. And I'll put a little USA patch right there just for further ID. On this side, I'll also throw on this subdued American patch. I'll go ahead and set up the GoPro as well. I don't have a retention system set up exactly on this helmet. That's something that you probably want.
Take a minute to appreciate the multicam tape job that Justin did on his GoPro.
Do a little Velcro strap like that so you could see the screen, but you don't want a light emitting all the time. So tape that off. Yeah. If you're going to do that, make sure you just drill out some holes to vent out the mics.
You tap some screws into the corners so then you can actually use retention bungees on the helmet.
Yeah, if you have arc rails like this, it's a good system. I'll leave this off actually until we get to the last point. I want to further conceal myself, so we're gonna kind of backtrack a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and take this stuff off, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this net on. So you kind of have to think about how you want to run the net, what things you want going over it and what things you want under it. The net actually does have like this little cutout for your shroud right there. Kind of see it's square, and I know it kind of hides a lot of our ID stuff now, but if we're in a scenario where we need this net fully on, you know, we're not going to worry about that so much. Still got the stuff that we need accessible poking through right there. I'll put the cat eyes on first because I want that ID right back here. Like I was telling you guys before, I like to just kind of mount my headlamp on the helmet on the actual cat eyes. A lot of times I'll just mount it off to the side until I directly need it, then I kind of pull it over to the front. So, and then I want my emergency strobe. This thing doesn't really stay on there all that well. Tape it on. Break these two in half. You could obviously have a better Velcro system so it kind of stays on.
Yeah, and you could also take the time so the scrim isn't in the way.
Right, yeah. Once again, we're just kind of doing both these helmet setups.
Yeah, just kind of doing it quick and dirty.
And you might want green tape if you're going to do something like that. Put goggles on, protecting your eyes from dust and all that stuff. I'll crack this ID Chemalite, kind of feed that through, right? So just have a little form of ID right there for if and when I need it. When it comes to my comms, like I said, I just keep them on the band. I'll show you what that looks like. As of right now, it's kind of what I got going on. It's a pretty decked out hiking setup right there. Got a lot of stuff going for it, a lot of concealment. We can actually go over here, this taller foliage, because this is like my height. You don't want a lot like we were talking about before, just a little amount.
Just a little bit to break up your silhouette.
And once again, those are sticking upwards, so we're not gonna wanna stick them in the helmet down, we're gonna wanna stick them up. So yeah, just something like that. Just enough, right? Just a tiny bit.
Vary them in height and whatnot.
Yeah, you don't want it to be super consistent across the board, sporadic. Lastly, my GoPro for my war atrocities. There we go. Right, so that's a pretty sexy, decked out little field hiking setup. So I'll go ahead and show you how I get this thing on with my comms like this. So I'm literally just gonna take my comms, gotta run the mic through there like that, and there we go. So one thing about this that I already have a gripe about is we're very front heavy right now. Because it's not actually nighttime, I'd probably just run this back here to kind of equal out the weight between what we have going on with the GoPro. For this kind of scenario, I mean, it's not as heavy as running that, you know, OpsCore ballistic helmet. It's nice and breathable. I can kind of feel some wind hitting my head.
I mean, the one thing I would get rid of is, I would get rid of the goggles if you're trying to stay concealed.
Yeah, take those off.
And then a little bit more shrubbery.
This is for more of a defensive play style, so you're gonna wanna maintain distance. Tyler is at way too close of a range for anyone I would actually want near me. I would have been shooting at him way before he got that close. So that's one thing to think about. We are going to be keeping distance. So if I was further away, how much of a beacon is this? You know, I'd say it's a lot more concealed than what he had with all of his bright patches and stuff. You know, everything is nice and subdued.
I mean, yeah, the fact that you like tape the strobe on top.
That kind of gives it away a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, I'd imagine. Maybe having those multicam goggles on here with that cover would be a lot better as opposed to just these. I just like these because they're nice and light and just a quick use. You know, they're not these big ass bulky goggles I have to worry about on my head.
Once again, we really appreciate you guys' support. We hope we helped you guys out. shop and figure out what kind of helmet setup you want to go about doing.
Yeah, like you said, I hope we just made a couple things click in your head when it comes to thinking about what your purpose of having a helmet is, and what all these individual items are for. Some people might not exactly know what specifically these things are. I remember the first times I kind of looked at a whole decked out helmet, I was like, wow, what's going on? So, there's a lot of methodical reason to putting stuff on your helmet, and you can make your helmet look cool, just purpose driven. With all that being said, hit that like, subscribe button. Make sure to leave a comment, any opinions you guys have down below. If you guys have any cool helmet setups, you should hit us up at Foghorn5 on Instagram, and we will catch you on the next one.
Later.